In this episode of the Cozy Let's Play, we get started by adding a couple of farms to the Mossy Acres farm. We also build our own mine, which did take a while, but we've got a complete mine shaft that goes all the way down to the beginning of deep slate level with a complimentary little rickety elevator to boot as well. Without further ado, let's jump into it, shall we? Hey there, welcome back. It's been a little bit, and as we jump back into things here, there are a couple of big things that I want to get started on in today's episode. The first of which, and smaller thing on the list that I think would be a great addition to the Mossy Acres farm area here, is a little bit of a sugarcane setup over in this clearing right here, down on the southeastern part of the farm. I've been unsure what to do with this area, and we've got some lingering water that I was filling in for the most part, but I think we can start to kind of utilize to our advantage. And I'm unsure where to do bamboo, but at the very least, sugarcane could be a good spot, and potentially we could even squeeze in some bamboo over here. That, of course, will all depend on how we set up the sugarcane farm area and how it turns out by the time we've got it all built and everything. And of course, bamboo's not the priority at the moment, just the sugarcane. So I want to get started with that, and then from there we can start to jump into a couple of structures that I think would be really fine additions to our lovely little world so far. Okay, so I think I am going to go ahead and fill in all of the water here. Remnants from, I think, what was once a little mini pond slash river. I don't remember if it connected. It's been a while. But whatever that was, it's gone. And instead, I think the idea of doing some sort of kind of tributary system, if that is the right word, I don't know. It's been a while since I've used that word, into the river over on the southern side. Just a bunch of little branches and forks of various little pockets of water that all kind of flow into the river there. And I feel like if we set something up like this and then mix in the sugarcane around the area, we both get a little bit of a swampy slash marshy sort of feel to it, and something that I think could really complement something like a sugarcane farm. Similar to what we did with all of the other farms in the area, trying to find kind of different ways of doing them from how I'm used to or how I might normally in a world. Any kind of way to kind of aesthetically improve it or overhaul it or just take a different route, right? So I also started texturing in the bottom of it. Not that you're going to see it under the water all that great, but just a little muddy texture with some mud, some cobbled deep slate, some mangrove roots, some muddy mangrove roots, and even some coarse dirt in there for some lighter colors. And I think once we get the water connected here and all of the sugarcane in place, we'll have something that I think works really well and is a little bit different at the very least from what we're used to in terms of sugarcane farms. The next step from here was to get all of our path continued. I decided to not change it up too much, use the same as around the rest of the farm, albeit a little bit smaller and a much tighter squeeze. And this is just so that we can access all the sugarcane without just trouncing through all of the water and mud. And we actually have a little bit of a walkway that looks like it's been used up a little bit, going back and forth, gathering all of the various reeds and resources around this little swampy spot. I also didn't want to spam the sugarcane too hard and just keep it kind of sporadic throughout the area, so it looked somewhat natural and not too overly done. Again, we're going for aesthetics more than anything here. All that said and done, I do believe we have some room for a bamboo setup, so I went ahead and got some more fencing and some more bushes around the area just to kind of bring it into the fold in terms of matching the theming and styling of the rest of the farm with the little outlines, the bushes, the fences, all of that sort of thing. As for with the bamboo, I decided to put it right up on the ridge next to where we built the sugarcane, and I decided to try and go for a little bit of a different styling. So I mixed in some coarse dirt and rooted dirt where we plant the bamboo. I got a little bit of tilled soil in there as well around where the bamboo's planted, just to kind of add a little bit of texturing into the nearby ground, I guess. I just didn't want it to be all grass with no real interesting bits and features. And another thing I decided to do was to make sure that I put string above all of the bamboo pieces at certain lengths so that it didn't grow too tall and look too out of place. So I think I ended up with something that looks pretty good and something that could fit the vibe of the farm very nicely. Alright, with the sugarcane and bamboo areas taken care of, I think I know where our focus needs to shift to next. I believe it is time that we set ourselves up a proper mine so that I no longer have to go and find all of the nearby caves and exhaust all of them for iron and coal and the like. So that leaves the question, where do we want to build a mine? And it's not just going to be your average staircase down into the ground until you get to diamond level and then strip mine from there. No, we are going to go about it a little bit differently. I want want to build a fully fleshed out mine, something that is detailed and aesthetically pleasing, as well as something that feels a little more in theme with the rest of this world here and all of the surrounding builds that we've done. Our goal with this world up to this point has been and will continue to be the focus on the aesthetics of everything instead of being super efficient with everything, right? The whole goal is to play this world differently. So that's going to apply with the mine, and I think I have just the idea as to how we are going to make that possible. I'm thinking we are going to dig right into the side of this hill over here, maybe a little bit further down the road, and from there, I think we're going to go down to about deep slate level for now. We're still pretty early game, all things considered, at least in terms of the progression that we're at, so I don't want to go into the deep slate levels quite yet. We're not enchanted with everything. We're just going to take it slow, take our time, and for now I'm going to dig ourselves all the way down to deep slate, and from there we'll dress up a nice little mine sort of aesthetic, sort of interior, as the staircase or slope kind of makes its way down. I'm not too sure how it's going to look quite yet, but we'll figure it out as we go and see what we can come up with. So getting started here, I've located a good spot in the hillside to go ahead and place our mine. I went for a basic kind of wooden and somewhat rickety appearing sort of entrance out front, just kind of improvise something pretty quickly. And with the shape of the entryway, what I tried to do is curve it a couple of times, have it come down a couple of blocks so that you get the impression that it's built a decent chunk of the way into the hillside here, where from this point, we are going to go down all the way to the beginning of deep slate level, somewhere around Y3 or 4 or 5. And the method in which we are going to get there is through a slowly declining slope that just winds its way down in this sort of circular shape as I cover up all of the various caves that we dig through and try and keep this kind of tall vertical cavern in one cohesive shape. As we dig further down through this sort of cavern or man-made sort of mine shaft situation, I do want to mention that I am experimenting with a different style for the videos with this episode here. So you guys will have to let me know in the comments what you think of this sort of style for the video, leaning a lot more on replay mod with the commentary being after the fact. And in the meanwhile, I'm able to sort of just grind through whatever it is I'm doing in the moment and think less about every moment and how I might take a step back and explain what it is and how it's working and all of those sorts of little details. When we do it this way, it is a different challenge for sure. It presents a very interesting way to kind of cover what's going on in the video, and maybe it just works really good for something like building this mine shaft, which did take me many hours to do. I've been working on this episode longer than any of the previous episodes have taken, mostly just because it's a lot of digging with unenchanted iron pickaxes, so realistically, that's probably the #1 reason more than anything, but it's been a nice change of pace to try and put together this episode through a different manner using replay mod instead of the constant kind of interjecting from first person as I construct things. A big focus of mine with digging out this mine shaft all the way down to deep slate level in the shape in which we are digging it is so that along the way at various different Y levels or various different points where it makes sense, we can start to dig out different branches of the mine, which I do intend to actually also kind of focus on aesthetically. We're not just going to have a bunch of 2x1 tunnels, the usual, you know, Minecraft super efficient way of mining. I actually kind of want to dig out all down the entire height of this sort of corridor, various different, you know, roughly 3x3 sorts of branches of the mine that kind of go off in every direction. We'll put in the various different wooden supports. Maybe I'll go as far as to continue to replace the ground, but then again, to a degree, we don't want to spend the entire time I'm looking for, you know, resources in this mine just dressing it up, although I do want to kind of find a little bit of a balance so that as we go, the entire thing is continued to be worked on, not just from an efficiency standpoint, but also an aesthetic standpoint. I just think it would be really cool to do that sort of thing. It's always something I've kind of had in the back of my mind as I've played through Minecraft through the various years, the different worlds that I've been in, the kind of mine that you sort of keep up with and you continue to dress up as if it was an actual mine, as opposed to the traditional sort of thing that you're used to in Minecraft, where it's all about just lasering to the diamonds. It'd be super efficient, 2x1 strip mines, so on and so forth. Hopefully it ends up being something that continues to look cool and I don't get sick of it, or at least don't get sick of it very quickly. We'll have to see with due time, of course, but I can say during the process of digging out this corridor all the way down to deep slate level and then detailing it up in a little bit here, it was a lot of fun, albeit tedious, and I tried not to overdo things too much. We dug down the entire shape and then I began swapping out the floor with a mix of different blocks such as granite, coarse dirt, some jungle planks, and then some regular dirt in there as well. It works nicely because granite and jungle planks both have slab versions, and I wanted to kind of keep the slope at sort of half slab at a time interval so that it was never too steep. And as I worked my way down the entirety of the height of this corridor, it started to really sort of shape up. Eventually I decided to get rid of any of the loose dirt or granite that was found in the walls just from how the world generated anything that I had dug through previously, because it was starting to look a little confusing when right next to where we have the pathway that was made out of the same materials. But as for the rest of the blocks, the various cobblestones and diorites and andesites and gravels and so on and so forth, I actually decided to leave all of those in the wall. Normally in the past, I would have gotten rid of them and cleaned it all up to like a normal stone so that it was all nice and coherent. But I figure that would kind of take away from the sort of mine aesthetic, I feel like, upon, thinking about it a little further. It's gonna be a little messy. There's gonna be all sorts of different things that you might find in the walls, the ores, the different types of stone and whatnot. So I felt like we would just leave all of those other things that don't interfere with the colors of the path too much to hopefully make the aesthetics of the place feel a little bit more realistic. I'm not too sure. You'll have to let me know if it's still too jarring seeing all of those different blocks in the walls, or if you sort of see where I'm coming from and it also makes sense to you as well. This technique here with the pathways, I guess you could say, or at least the walkable areas, this is something I've done a lot in the past in any of the sort of mine shafts or man-made mine areas that I've worked on in other worlds, as a thing that I've done for a while that always seems to add a little bit to the aesthetic and to the atmosphere of the mine, just like you would in a town or a village or any of the sort. Having just a walkable area be distinguishable from any of the other areas and be dressed up in a nice way, because you spend a lot of your time walking across those areas and a lot of time seeing those spots. So it does make, I think, the biggest difference of any of the details that we can add. Speaking of details that were used throughout the mine, every good mine shaft needs some sort of wooden support that keeps the place from collapsing on itself. So what I decided to go for here was a little different than anything I've quite tried in previous mine builds that I've done. I'm using a little bit of the packed mud walls to blend in with the spruce wood to kind of give the pillars a little bit more width at the bottom and at times at the top as well, to just kind of help the shape a little bit. And we're mostly using just a combination of various spruce wood artifacts such as stairs and slabs and trapdoors and what have you. As we make our way down, I tried to space them out, not particularly at an even amount per se, but a couple of times per layer, if you can call them layers. It's kind of hard to tell with it constantly being a slope, but slowly made my way all the way down towards the deep slate level and added what felt like a good amount of these supports all the way through this big open area. And that'll be a trend that continues in any of the branch mines that we decide to dig into the walls at all of the various levels for the various different resources. Of course, we also need to fill in this big centerpiece right here with some sort of makeshift rickety elevator sort of situation. It's not actually going to be a functional elevator, but we just want to give it the appearance that there is some sort of elevator or at least pulley system that allows you to take resources from the bottom to the top and vice versa, or maybe even people if you're feeling brave enough to get onto this contraption. So something that at the end of the day feels unsafe, but like it belongs in this kind of a build, this sort of a mining atmosphere. So I used a bunch of spruce fences and various other spruce details, stairs, slabs, trapdoors, again, just like in the other supports, to try and get something that sort of fit that theme and sort of gave you that uneasy feeling, while also getting the point across that it is some sort of elevator or pulley contraption at the very least. With the first big chunk of the mine complete, there is only one thing left for us to do. What we've got to do is actually put this to the test. So I think what we're gonna do for starters is make our way all the way down to the bottom level where we're getting close to deep slate, and we're gonna dig our first mine shaft into the wall in some rough 3x3-ish sort of setup. I'll bring some spruce wood with me so that I can add some supports and whatnot as we dig out the tunnel. Like I mentioned before, I don't want to just do normal 2x1 strip mines. That's no fun, especially in the context of this world. We're going to try to get a little creative with it. While we watch as the first mineshaft tunnel is dug out down here at the beginning of the deep slate tiers, I wanted to share with you guys a couple of different statistics that I got after this project was done. Now, of course, not everything is from this project alone, but at this point in the world, we have broken 110 iron pickaxes and 107 iron shovels. On top of that, we are up to 19,000 stone blocks that have been mined, and for the most part, we've spent a lot of our time above ground doing some dirt terraforming, so I didn't expect that number to be too high specifically. One thing I do want to inquire with you guys is that I want to build some more mine shafts all throughout the different heights of this sort of downward tunnel that we've dug and placed the mine shaft within. I want to have various different levels and mine shafts for the different ores, like one for getting coal, one for getting iron, one for getting copper, all of that kind of stuff. So if you guys know about which Y levels are the best for things like coal and things like iron and things like copper, all of the things that we could find up in the stone levels, by all means let me know down in the comments below, and then we can in the future plan to have various mine shafts for the individual ore types and really start to optimize this place a little bit further. All right, well, we've done a little bit of work in our very first mine shaft down in our new dig, and if I'm being honest, it's not the most efficient thing in the world, but I kind of knew that going into it. This is more for aesthetics and the feel that kind of flows with the rest of the world more than anything. So our overall haul looks a little something like this. Okay, so no diamonds in this haul or really anything of too much value. However, after going through something like 3 to 5 iron pickaxes or so, fully unenchanted of course, and just keeping a roughly 3x3 sort of hallway that just kind of extends outward, one thing that I did notice is that this is actually very, very good for building materials. So if anything, we at least have a mine that works really well for that sort of thing. And I'm sure when we eventually build part of the mine to go down into deep slate level, will actually be pretty efficient when it comes to something like diamonds or even a gold if we need that, so on and so forth. All in all though, not bad. I am getting low on iron, so the fact that we're still able to pick up like 46 iron is great. And again, as we go down into deep slate level in the future with an extension, once we have better stuff and we're enchanted and we kind of progress later on down the road, we'll be able to find things like iron veins and really start to take off from there. And as for this episode, that's about as far as I think we're gonna get. There is more to this mine build than what we were able to achieve in this episode, but I think that lines us up perfectly for the next episode. We're gonna continue working out in this region here at the base of our original hill here, for the Cherry Creek cottage up top, and then this kind of sister hill over here, which I'm sure we'll start to do more with in the future as well. I want to add on to the mine build, of course, by adding some more mine shafts throughout the interior of it, but we're going to connect it to the road, and then we're going to add another build, a proper building, much like we did with the stables and the farmhouse over yonder, over in this region to kind of complement the place, and I guess you'll just have to wait until the next episode to see what that is. However, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode today. It did take quite a while to get out, but hopefully the next couple of episodes are able to go a little bit quicker with a whole lot less digging with unenchanted iron tools. I do want to say a big shout out to all of you guys who support through the Patreon. It helps keep the YouTube channel and the Twitch channel going, and if you guys don't already watch us over on Twitch, I'm live there 5 to 6 days out of the week every single week, always working on some fun projects that are aside from this world that we do on the YouTube channel, so definitely come check us out over there. Hope the rest of your day goes well, and until the next episode, I will see you there.